Herbert's 100 harem. You know, we're only going to wait so much longer, Hritha remarks, and Herbert raises an eyebrow at the Zedden girl he's married to. We know you're full of it. Hritha, I work in intelligence. You need to narrow things down, Herbert remarks as he reads through the tips and advice hidden in the 4th book he'd gotten. You don't have a problem with our ages, do you? Hritha says with her hands on her hips, and he raises an eyebrow. He clearly and easily spots the wire on her. Yes and no. There are issues, but I don't want to pressure anyone, Herbert says, turning the page. He was struggling at times to figure out exactly what level of truth was needed to make a lie or manipulation well and truly confusing and simultaneously easy to swallow. The balance is truly delicate, much like this situation. Pressure? Hritha asks, and Herbert considers before shrugging. This isn't a situation that requires deceit or manipulation. Think about it. We live on the good grace of Ambassador Hleyla. For a family to be successful, it needs resources. Most, if not all of my wives are finished with their basic education and moving into specific trades or more advanced fields. This is a period of learning and growth. I don't want it cast to the side due to a lack of restraint on my side. A lack of restraint? So you are tempted? Hritha asks, and Herbert sighs as he slips a bookmark in and tucks it to the side. He turns fully to face her and look her dead on. If she had eyes, then he'd be staring into them. Hritha, it is a struggle to keep my hands off you girls, one that I almost routinely fail. You're all gorgeous. It's not a question of want or temptation because it's a big yes to both. It's a question of rationality, or rather rationing. Rationing? We don't technically have the money to keep ourselves well kept. Out of all 101 of us in this marriage, I'm the only one with a full-time job. I'm chasing promotions and pay raises hard, but unless I somehow become a captain and get my own ship, or end up as one of the heads of an entire division, then I simply don't have the money to keep 101 people fed, housed, and clothed, let alone any potential children we may have. You? Hritha gasps as it all snaps into place and a deep sense of guilt overtakes her. It was so easy to forget with all the energy he had and how he always seems new to everything, but he was a fully grown adult who had lived with his responsibilities and had supported himself before coming here, one that was now waiting for them to grow up. We can't rely on the good nature of the ambassador forever. She's a wonderful person and one that I respect and admire more and more every time I speak with her, which is all the more reason to not take advantage of her. So you're holding out until we're all ready to take care of a family? Well, yeah. We're all in this together now, right? So we best act like it. You girls need to finish your training and get your jobs going. Then when we have enough to make sure we can take care of each other, we can finally indulge. Why didn't you just tell us to begin with? I got moved into Intelligence Division and Sir Philip Masterson, living legend, decided to take me under his wing and apprentice me. He has taught me so much about deception, about finding the truth and even using the direct truth to lie and misguide and to see through such things that I've been putting the lessons to practice even when I shouldn't. I'm having a hard time separating home and work because both are so fascinating and amazing that I want to do both at all times, so it's blurring together. Ah, well, I think I heard a saying that if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. Love is a bit strong, but I'm having a huge amount of fun. So what would you consider being ready? We are ready when we can move out and into our own home without drowning in debt. When we can stand on our own without handouts from others, a little broad, I know. But a fair standard, I think, Herbert says, and Hritha nods. What about the younger girls? The ones that are just starting their apprenticeships or secondary education? We don't need everyone to be finished with things, just enough. I can support 10 or 12 on my own paycheck. I'm getting a lot of money, but it's all going into savings at the moment. We need more, but pressuring you all to make more here and now will cause terrible decisions. So no sex, because if we start, it will be hard to stop, and we're not ready for the consequences. But the ambassador would be thrilled to hear about us having children, Hritha says, and Herbert shrugs. Yes, but we're still on her budget. Even if it's a tax break, it's still not really right. There's more, isn't it? Yes, but it's the last practical barrier. If we can stand on our own and support the children with our own efforts, then there's no more silly fighting or reluctance, Herbert explains. And yes, I'm being very honest with this, girls. I'm quite aware of the wire that Hritha's wearing. The only question is if Ambassador Hleyla is also privy to this conversation. Oh, you could tell? Yes. Now is there something else, or is there going to be... Herbert trails off as Hritha starts going through her pockets and brings out a sheet. This! What do you think of this? She asks, holding it out to him. He takes it from her and scans it. A schedule for who's sleeping with him. It shifts nightly. Am I really considered this cuddly? He asks, curiously. We want to feel close. Ambassador Hlela thinks we're being overcrowding, but, well... The axiom in Hritha's head crest starts shifting to show embarrassment and uncertainty. What's wrong? He asks. Well, She begins, and he thinks he understands. The speculations that panned out from the reports. The few interviews he'd given to male aliens had panned out. These weren't families. These were clans based around the creation and protection of children. For that, you needed a great deal of women working to support it, and a man to help initiate the children. He was the clan center, meaning he had the power to guide it and the responsibility to guide it well. All right, what do you want? What? Oh, no, I'm not... We're married. Tell me, Herbert says, and she fidgets. There's a flash of a lust pattern in the axiom in her head, and he lets out a little of understanding. He steps close and gives her a kiss on the head before hugging her close. All four of her arms wrap around him as well as her tail as she cuddles in and lets out a sigh of contentment. Girls, I know you're all listening. If you all just want affection, don't be afraid to tell me. The worst that will happen is I say no. He assures them all through the wire before chuckling. And you don't have to spend spies and representatives. If you have questions, ask for goodness sakes. But you might lie. Sometimes you have to lie, right? She asks as she unwinds her tail from around them both and takes a step back. Yes, but it's a question of effort. Start with things that you can walk back from or easily back out of if things go wrong. If that doesn't work, then you bring out the heavier tactics. Information gathering 101, don't do more than you have to. If you can get what you need with a question, just ask a questions. If you can get what you need with a question and guilting them, do that then. If you need to blackmail someone to get the information, first make sure you need to, then make sure you've got everything you need to make sure they talk. Why are you teaching me about interrogation after a hug? So that neither you nor anyone else does something goofy like try to wear a wire when talking to someone who's trained in dealing with it. Now, are there any other questions or concerns? What's your plans? I mean, in say 5 or 10 years, what do you see us as doing? What do I see? A fair question. The problem is that there are a lot of plans up in the air, and we've got no idea what's going to happen. I can't imagine the Dauntless staying on Centris in perpetuity. There will be an embassy, though, and the way things are looking now, I'm going to be posted here. Or I could request it to lock it in. The question is, then, what will you girls be doing? Most of you would have finished your apprentices or secondary education by then, so a lot of us will be working. Meaning we're likely soon to move out, even if Ambassador Hlela is still willing to put up with us at that point. Any further explanation is cut off by Herbert's communicator going off. Hello, Ambassador Hlela. I'm glad to know that my assumption on you listening in was completely correct. You're on speakerphone. You're doing very well as an intelligence officer, Ambassador Hlela says, and there's a minor echo in the background from whatever she's using to listen in through Hritha's wire. Thank you. I want you to know that I fully support not only you and your wives, but that I encourage you to have children with them. Not only is it the right thing to do, but it's a healthy thing to do all around. There is no one in existence that a woman can love more than their children. It's a healthy love, no matter how passionate or dispassionate their relationship with their husband is. You want to do right by these girls? Have as many daughters and sons with them as possible. But they're in their initial training, and putting that on hold will not hurt them in the long run. Do remember that you are younger now than before. You have time, they have time, but chance can always take things away. Let them have this love now. But there's an innocence that's lost when someone has to take care of another's life. Something precious and valuable that once gone is never coming back. Just how protective are you humans over the young? There are fewer ways to convince a human to hate someone than to tell them that the person has in some way hurt a child. Innocence is part of childhood. I'm running into a culture clash so big I've left a dent in a wall somewhere, haven't I? Herbert asks out loud. He takes a deep breath and mentally gathers up his preconceptions and illusions into his lungs. Then he lets them out. His mind is cleared ever so slightly by the quick exercise. Something like that. While your protective instincts are wonderful, I suggest you save them for your own children and not your wives, okay? I'll try, but no one's perfect. There will be some backsliding, Herbert says. Is this really okay? I mean, is this actually all right? Teenage pregnancy is something you want? Cultural hung-ups, I understand. How bad is the stigma back home? Ambassador Hlela asks. Enough for it to be a massive scandal. I won't go into further details as the standards shift from culture to culture. But suffice to say, I'd already be in prison and probably have fallen on something sharp at this point back home. I see. Time for you to learn about some of our standards. Young lady, Ambassador Hlela says into the communicator. Miss? Take your man and get yourself a daughter. He's being reluctant, but understand that all of you are not only encouraged, but now expected to be pregnant before the year's end. That is a lot of children, Herbert protests. You want to be a decent agent for your own people, right? Ambassador Hlela asks. I've taken numerous oaths I value higher than my life, Herbert says with a raised eyebrow. Is she? Then it's in your best interests as well. A man who's married without children? Very, very suspicious. You want to scuttle around and find things? Best keep everyone too busy looking at your daughters than at you, Ambassador Hlela says, and Herbert sighs. That's a good point. Damn, I really am out of excuses. Part of reaching out and understanding other cultures is participating. This isn't onerous. It's not what you're used to be sure. However, if countless men throughout all of galactic history can bear such a burden without your level of training, skill, and will, then I have no doubt you'll do an excellent job. At least I won't be the first to start the trend of such things, Herbert says as he takes a breath and lets it out in a huff. The Bounty Hunters. Pukey wakes up with a smile. He's a little sore, and no doubt Cindy is thoroughly but smugly sore herself. By the time they'd been driven back to the ship, she had been well and truly sloshed. Granted, with him spiking his own drinks, he had a pleasant enough buzz as well. He begins to squirm out, and Cindy lets out a little whimper. It's too early. We slept for 10 hours, Pukey whispers, and she burrows into the pillow a bit more. Not enough, she mutters, and he nods. I'll get you some water and breakfast, he says even softer. Take your time, just want to sleep, Cindy mutters. No breakfast? He asks. Eggs and bacon with toast were universal enough. No, she mutters, and he suppresses a chuckle as he stands up, then bends at the waist to give her a kiss on the cheek. She lets out a happy little sigh, and with utterly silent feet he slips out of their shared bedroom. He takes a minute to relieve himself in the nearest bathroom, and with a stretch and a sigh he walks into the main mess hall. Yo-ho! Yo-ho! A pirate's life for... The whole crew greets him with as Scaly shoves his tricorn hat onto his head and darts away with a laugh. That the kid's dressed in a striped shirt and has an eye patch over his cybernetic eye is not lost on him. Not that something as thin as an eye patch could actually stop his or Pukey's cybernetic eyes. Cork it! He orders with a laugh. Unless you've got the rum, lads? Yar! Mustard replies, holding up a bottle, and Pukey straight up laughs in amusement. Not for breakfast. I'll take some coffee, though, and whatever's hot. Oatmeal, loaded up with that meat honey the bee women make, the Hat remarks before taking a spoonful of the slightly pinkish concoction himself. Isn't that the stuff that tastes like maple bacon? Yeah, it's kinda weird, but more than all right. Healthy and tasty enough you can ignore that first part, mister. Tea adds in around a mug of something steaming and likely very British. All right, let's try it out, he says, and is quickly enough holding the warm food in his mouth and trying to mentally shift through exactly what he should think about this. The taste isn't bad, but it really doesn't match up with the texture. Like a bacon and oats honey smoothie. Right in the field of I don't know what to think, isn't it? Tang asks, as he takes a drink of a mildly green milk. What kind of thing did that come from? Pukey asks, stabbing at the off-color liquid with his spoon. Imagine a cross between a buffalo and a snake. Perfectly edible and even kind of boring, but the color keeps throwing me off. Really? Take normal milk and water it down a bit. That's this. Boring but off color, Tang remarks as he pours an entire glass down his throat. Quenches thirst well enough and is dirt cheap to get just about anywhere. Speaking of things happening anywhere, what about what happened here last night? Bit of a left turn, boss, but okay. Dong says as he puts his drained cup into his own bowl. But we were tested by and passed muster for the Elder Crimson Hewers. We're going to need some bigger toys if they turn hostile, though. Sniper fire and standard munitions enhanced with Axiom both failed to penetrate the armor and do anything other than inconvenience them and knock them around. They were more entertained than anything, and the only reason we impressed them was that we turned the ambush backwards on them. On some good news, then. I made contact with one of the owners. They're peaceful enough so long as we don't do anything stupid. Making inroads into possibly hiring us as well, I told them to keep it legal so we don't end up dodging bounty hunters of our own down the road. As much fun as that would be, it would make getting paid a pretty annoying venture, Air Farce notes. Oh, I don't know. Getting paid by the government to fetch my husband might make a fun game a few times, Onyx remarks with a grin. How's that supposed to be fun? Jade asks, and Onyx coughs nervously as Air Farce smiles up at her. Oh, you think this is funny? Fine, you explain it then. Mommy is talking about getting paid to have sexy role play with Daddy. Not like that! Onyx is instantly flustered. She's ignorant, not stupid. She can take it, Air Farce says. Our little girl isn't a frail sort. Oh, those things, would it be all right if I... When do I get to try those things? Jade asks, and Onyx's eyes go wide. When you've got the skills and knowledge to stand on your own. When you're ready to leave, that's when you're ready to start your own family, Air Farce says with a smile of remembrance. That sounded like a quote, Onyx notes. It's a wordier and gentler version of what my father said to me, Air Farce says as he looks up towards the ceiling, and in his mind's eye his gaze goes to Earth. Logically, he knows that he's practically guaranteed to be looking the wrong way entirely. Space being in motion makes a straight line to anything a massive pain in the ass to even consider. I need to go flying or something. I'm getting kind of homesick again, he mutters to himself. Can you teach me how to properly fly a shuttle? Scaly asks, and Air Farce smiles. Me too. I want to fly, Jade adds in. I'll do you both one better. You'll both be flying, and I'll be telling you how from right behind you, Air Farce says, standing up. Who's on dishes again? I've got it. You have fun, J3 remarks, grabbing the dishes and quickly clearing the table. So what's next? We've felt out the nightlife and already made an impression on the brawl yards. Should we scout that out a little more thoroughly? Or the hivers? Gentlemen, I'm looking for opinions or wild ideas. Actually, sir, with a bit of modifications to these badges, we could get into the wet works or see what we can about Spirit Street. The sooner we get the harder parts out of the way, the better. That's not hard. Andrea and Roth are basically local grunts. Rumor-mongering and knowing when to stay the hell out of the boss's path is a honed survival trait for girls like that. And of course they're willing to talk. The women of the galaxy redefine desperate, Pukey remarks. Hey! Onyx protests with her hands on her hips. Yes? Air Farce asks. I wasn't desperate. I scared you nearly senseless, and you then did your level best to crush my pelvis. If not for the sheer padding, you'd have done it, he says, leaning back and slapping Onyx on the ass. Her hand zips down and holds it there. She then reaches down and lifts him up by the front of his shirt. There's a pause as she simply tries to stare him down, but Air Farce isn't someone that can be easily intimidated, and he slowly plants his feet on her thighs, reaches down, and then pulls at the back of her head to plant a deep kiss. Ow! I didn't need to see that this early, Jade grumps as chuckles round the room. Speaking of your new girlfriends and of such things happening in general, what's the plan, gents? We moved around a lot to avoid picking up too many extras and still ended up with fang tits there. Pukey remarks in a dismissive tone and snorts as Onyx flips him the bird while not breaking the kiss with Air Farce. Easy enough, Captain. We make a rule and make it plain. Going full out with any of us means that you're part of the team now. We'll play around outside it, especially if it helps the job, but actual commitment requires commitment in return, the Hat says before starting again with a prissy tone. If those Crimson Hewer girls decide to chase my ass down, then they better be ready to commit. I'm not a one-and-done kind of guy. The guys choke down a laugh as Jade openly giggles. Onyx, for her part, breaks off the kiss. Air Farce snorting in amusement had kind of ruined it anyways. I wasn't paying attention, but yes, you are. She snipes at him, and the Hat mimes, reeling back and clutching his heart as if devastated. Scaly snorts in amusement at that bit. So how are things with those girls? Mr. T asks Mustard, and the man grins. That good, is it? Oh, yes. They're distant cousins and have lived on the station since they were little girls. They're very, very familiar with the area. It's not official, and the local gents either don't know or didn't tell us, but there are a lot of air-filled bars for them to get a proper drink without it drifting everywhere. Hard to sip whiskey underwater, Pukey remarks in thought. Do we have any information on Spirit Street? I may have something, Bike says before tapping at the table a bit before a hologram appears over them. He fiddles through it a bit until it shows what looks like a dark-skinned Tret woman with purple hair, an eye patch and strange lines in her body as if she were in segments. A wrap covers her lower body but does nothing to hide the fact she's got white panties on, and a sparkling pink tube top in a circuit-like pattern keeps her decent barely. Meet Lady Gear. She leads one of the top 5 religious parties, and this one does not have raging misandry as a central tenet. The synth ascendancy, long story short, it's a religion about being your best self through literal upgrades. A huge chunk of their population are brain uploads, partial cyborgs, or full conversion cyborgs like Gear here. All right, how does this help us? Pukey asks. The synth ascendancy differs itself from many other technological-based religions by placing an unusually high emphasis on their reproductive abilities. Long story short, they all have not only artificial wombs, but the best in the galaxy. Even if the base species does not normally give birth to litters a single night with one of these over the top, fertile robot women will end up with dozens of children at the least. If there's a point, get to it. Pukey orders and Bike nods. They like their men the way they like everything else. Cybernetically augmented, you and Scaly would find yourselves welcome if not guests of honor in any of their temples. Cindy would also be very welcome. As a surgeon specializing in cybernetic implants, she'd almost be an unofficial priestess to them. Between the 3 of you, it's a very easy job to open up a friendly contact in an otherwise unfriendly part of the station. Basically, Captain, you're a walking fetish for these girls with Scaly being the slithering jailbait. What about the Astral Guides and Mother Tearclaw? Surely they'd be willing to help out. It's in the name Astral Guide, Jade asks. She's where I got most of this information from. Or she pointed the way, at least. I'm afraid that as wonderful as the guides are, they're also a severe minority on this station. It's a mostly Canador religion, and most Canador on the station are Crimson Hewers who are decidedly not astral guides. Still, it's good that you're thinking you've got a good head for this, kiddo. Bike compliments her, and she shows a smile full of serrated teeth. This may be an interesting thing to look into. How common are these tech-based religions? Common enough that you can find a temple of science in every major urban area. We just haven't had cause to pay much attention before, but I looked over the maps from our old missions, and most cities and towns had at least one religious district, and in each one there was a temple or church of some kind of machine cult. This could have been useful before, Pukey remarks as he drums the table with his hard, light hand to emphasize the point. Yes and no. Useful in that they'll make great local contacts. Machine cults are the go-to girls if you want the local information network cracked open so wide you could lose a planet in it. However, you also had me on direct orders to include hacking and information retrieval into my communications officer purview. So that's what I did. Hell, I actually got some help a few times by asking some of their message boards how to hack better, and I got entire essays for answers. And not useful in? Sheets of technobabble in normal speech.